For the last 7 months, I've been experimenting with a ton of Fujifilm film recipes, and there are thousands upon thousands of recipes out there. It can quickly become overwhelming. I've been looking for recipes that fit my shooting style and how I would like to edit my photos. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my 5 favorite recipes that I've been using on a daily basis. And these might actually be my 5 favorite recipes of 2024. I may throw in some honorable mentions. To break this down, I set a goal to use different film recipes that use different film simulations to achieve completely different looks so that I have a lot of options to choose from whenever I'm shooting. All of these photos are shot straight out of the camera from either the X100VI or my Fujifilm X-T5, both with the Short Stash Everyday filter from Polar Pro. I made a video about this filter in the past. This filter has not left my X100VI. It's such a great filter. It works. It just, the mist, the fusion effect is so subtle. It just is a great filter. I never have to take it off. So every photo that you see is taken with either this camera or the X-T5 with the same filter. But anyways, let's get into this list. I'm gonna start with the first recipe, which is actually a blend of 2 recipes that I found, and that is Ultramax 400 and Kodachrome 64. This recipe uses an auto white balance, and the whole purpose of this recipe was to have a general purpose recipe, something that I can rely on for any kind of scenario, whether or not I want to shoot indoors or outdoors on a cloudy day, a bright sunny day. It's an extremely versatile recipe that works across so many scenarios, and I wanted a recipe in my camera that I can just select, and I know that I'm always going to get a great result from it. The reason I say that this is a blend between the 2 is because I started with Ultramax 400 and then I found a Kodachrome 64 recipe online that uses an auto white balance, so I kind of tweaked it a little bit. So these settings are a little bit customized, but they kind of achieve the same result, and this is my everyday recipe for documenting life and everything else. So I'm gonna show you photos taken with this recipe, and at the very end, I'm gonna share the settings so that you can try it for yourself. The next recipe is something that I have recently been experimenting with. Today we're talking about Tri-X 400. Now this recipe is not the same recipe from Fuji X Weekly. This recipe is fantastic. I tried this about a couple months ago and I fell in love with the results almost immediately. You get such a nice contrast and this classic timeless tone that black and white photos deliver. Plus the added benefit of having extra sharpness. I think it's a +1 or +2 sharpness, which just gives you a really nice, crispy, sharp image. And I love using this for candid photos and traveling. I recently went to Chicago, and during my travels through the airports, I shot with this recipe, and I took some candids of some people and just shots of inside the airport, and was just blown away with the result. I would love to shoot black and white all the time. I don't think I will, but this is a recipe that's staying in my camera for good. I would highly recommend trying this out, even if you don't like black and white, because it does provide excellent results, and I'm very happy with this. So this next one is an honorable mention because I felt bad about leaving this off the list, but I recently made a video about this recipe and that is, of course, the classic Cuban negative recipe. That is such a go-to recipe for me. It's such a great classic negative recipe that just always looks good when you shoot it. But I didn't add it to this list because I made a separate video about it. And if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description below, or maybe one of these little pop-up things if I can figure out how to do that. But I'm gonna leave that one as an honorable mention. It's a great recipe. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. So this third recipe is something I love to shoot with. It's not for every scenario, but I've used this in the past for parties with friends, and my friend Vinny has house parties every now and then, and I love using this recipe for this. This is a recipe I found from another YouTuber who goes by the name of Eddie Maynard. He developed this recipe. I'll leave his channel link below, but it is, I'm pretty sure it's called Eddie's Point and Shoot, I think. But this recipe is a classic negative recipe that specifically I use with the on-camera flash on the X100VI. And it really just makes some incredibly looking images. It almost looks like just those point and shoot film photos that you use with the flash, and it provides such a unique look to photos that I only use this recipe with the flash on, and I've used it so much. This is a personal favorite. It's not a recipe that stays in my camera because it's so limited. Well, I don't want to say limited because you can use this without the flash, but I think this recipe really shines when you do use the on-camera flash with the X100VI. It really is a lot of fun to use, and I actually just used it last night for our Christmas party. It's so reliable. It just works so well. I highly recommend trying this out, and if you've never really experimented with the flash on this camera, I definitely would check this out. So the fourth recipe on here is one that I have been using as a daily recipe that uses a classic negative film simulation. This one's called Kojak Gold, and I found this from film.recipes online. There are a ton of recipes on this website. We took a trip to Salem a couple months ago, and I shot almost exclusively with the Kojak Gold recipe, and it just looks great. The thing I like about this recipe is, unlike the classic Cuban negative, this recipe is kind of like in the middle. It's not a very strong classic negative recipe like the classic Cuban negative is, where classic Cuban negative has like high saturation with like high contrast, and this is kind of a nice balance in the middle, where I've seen a lot of classic negative recipes that are very strong and bold looks, but this is kind of like a more subtle approach to classic negative, and this does work in a lot of scenarios. And this is one that I've been using a lot. I've shot a lot of cars with this. I've just shot a lot of photos with this, and it's extremely reliable. Definitely check this out if you like using classic negative. The last recipe on this list is actually one that I recently discovered about a month and a half ago. I was in Chicago and I was scrolling through Instagram and I was looking through photos of different other photographers, and I came across someone, I forget the user, but I noticed this really nice amber look to a lot of their photos. I know they were film photos, but I was kind of looking for something that had a little extra warmth and had this like nostalgic look. So naturally, I gravitated towards a nostalgic negative simulation, and I found this recipe from Fujifilmsimulations.com. It's called Nostalgia. I've been using this for a lot of like home photos here since like we basically just moved in We just moved into our new house and we've been in here for a week, but I've been using this to photograph things in the house that really kind of gives it this warm, retro look. And I also use this in Chicago for shooting in like the airport, and I was so blown away by the results that I knew that this would be a new personal favorite of mine. And Nostalgic Negative is not a simulation that I use very often, but I really like the results of this. Again, it uses an auto white balance, so you can use it in a lot of scenarios, but it doesn't work for everything, and that's why I don't use it all the time, but it's something that I will definitely be keeping in my camera. Here are some photos taken with Nostalgia. So there we have it. Those are my 5 favorite Fujifilm recipes as of right now to finish out the year of 2024. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I highly recommend you try these recipes out. Like I said, I love experimenting and finding new recipes and trying new things, trying new looks that I don't typically edit my photos in. This will be my last video for 2024, and we go into a brand new year. I have a lot of new videos coming out. I have a review video with my thoughts and opinions on the Fujifilm X100VI. That's gonna be coming out soon, so stay tuned for that one. And then I'm also gonna do some other featured recipes and just talk cameras. And we're also gonna be starting up the photo walks again now that my foot injury is slowly starting to go away now. But again, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.